HOA Karen poured chemicals in flower garden, fined $200,000 and forced to replant. The garden was my sanctuary, a riot of color that greeted me every morning with open petals and soft whispers of life. I'd spent years tending it, coaxing roses to climb trellises and coaxing shy violets to bloom in the shade. But Karen, oh Karen, she saw my haven as a personal affront, a middle finger to her pristine vision of our neighborhood's HOA-approved aesthetic. My name is Lily, and I moved to Willow Creek 3 years ago, chasing a quieter life after a messy divorce. The house was modest, but the garden, that was my masterpiece. I poured my soul into every inch of soil, planting heirloom flowers passed down from my grandmother's seed collection. Neighbors would stop by, smiling, leaving notes of admiration tucked into my mailbox. All except Karen, the HOA president, whose laser-like gaze could wilt a sunflower at 20 paces. She'd march past my fence daily, clipboard in hand, muttering about non-compliant flora and excessive vibrancy. I laughed it off. At first, her rules were absurd. Who measures petal width or bans marigolds for being too cheerful? But I didn't know how far she'd go. It started small, a warning letter about my daisies being unruly, a fine for my lavender encroaching an inch onto the sidewalk. I complied, trimmed, and paid, thinking she'd tire out. But Karen was a storm brewing, and I was blissfully unaware of the hurricane about to hit. One evening, I caught her peering over my fence, her lips pursed like she'd bitten a lemon. "Your garden's a disgrace." "Lily," she snapped, "it's bringing down property values." I offered her a cutting of my peonies, hoping to soften her. She swatted it away like it was poison. That was the moment I saw the glint in her eyes, pure, unfiltered spite. The tension simmered for weeks. Karen's inspections grew more frequent, her notes more venomous. She'd stand outside my gate, scribbling furiously, her heels clicking like a metronome of doom. I started losing sleep, checking my plants for signs of sabotage. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. Mr. Thompson, the quiet widower next door, pulled me aside one morning. His hands trembled as he whispered, "She's done this before. You know, to Mrs. Carver's roses. They never bloomed again." His voice cracked, and I saw fear in his eyes, a man who'd lived here for decades, cowed by Karen's reign. He showed me a photo of Mrs. Carver's garden, once a jewel, now a patch of dirt. My stomach churned. Karen wasn't just a bully, she was a destroyer. I installed a cheap security camera, hidden in a birdhouse, hoping to catch her in the act. Days passed and nothing happened. I almost let my guard down. Then, one humid August night, the storm broke. I woke to the sound of liquid splashing, like a bucket overturning, heart pounding. I ran to the window. There she was, Karen, in a black hoodie, pouring something from a jug onto my flower beds. The air reeked of chemicals, sharp and acrid, like bleach mixed with death. My roses shriveled before my eyes, their petals curling inward as if screaming. My zinnias collapsed, their colors bleeding into the soil. I grabbed my phone, hit record, and burst outside, shouting, "What the hell are you doing?" Karen froze, the jug slipping from her hands. It hit the ground, spilling a sickly green liquid that hissed against the earth. "You're ruining everything," she shrieked, her voice raw with rage. "This eyesore of a garden mocks our standards. I'm saving this neighborhood." Her words were a slap, but the sight of my flowers, my grandmother's legacy dying in real time, was a knife to the heart. I lunged forward, not to fight, but to save what I could. She shoved me back, her nails digging into my arm. Neighbors' lights flicked on, faces appearing at windows. Mr. Thompson hobbled out, his cane shaking as he yelled, "You've gone too far." Karen. The next morning, the devastation was apocalyptic. My garden was a graveyard, blackened stems, scorched soil, and a stench that clung to the air like a curse. Karen's chemicals had killed everything, even the worms in the dirt. I stood there, tears streaming, as neighbors gathered, murmuring in shock. But Karen wasn't done. She stormed over, waving her HOA rule book like a holy text. "You'll be fined for this mess," she sneered. "Clean it up, or I'll have your house flagged." That was when something in me snapped. I wasn't just fighting for my garden anymore. I was fighting for every person she'd bullied, every joy she'd crushed. I uploaded the security footage to the neighborhood's online forum, tagging every resident. The video spread like wildfire. Comments poured in, "She's a monster. My tulips died last year, now I know why." By noon, a crowd had gathered outside Karen's house, demanding answers. She tried to spin it, claiming I'd provoked her with my rebellious garden. But the evidence was undeniable: her face, clear as day, pouring poison on my life's work. The twist deepened when Mrs. Carver, now in her 80s, joined the crowd. She held up a photo of her ruined roses, her voice trembling but firm. "You did this to me, too. Karen, you thought I'd stay quiet forever." The crowd gasped, their anger turning molten. Karen's facade cracked, her smirk replaced by a flicker of panic. The confrontation exploded at the next HOA meeting. I walked in with a folder of evidence: the video, photos of the destruction, and a lab report confirming the chemicals were industrial-grade herbicides, banned for residential use. Karen sat at the head of the table, her usual throne, but the room's energy had shifted. Neighbors who'd once feared her now glared, their whispers a chorus of rebellion. I stood, my voice steady despite the lump in my throat. This wasn't just about my garden. It's about her abusing power, destroying what we love because it doesn't fit her rules. I played the video on a projector, the room silent except for the sound of Karen's venomous words echoing. Faces hardened. Someone muttered, "She's done." Karen tried to interrupt, her voice shrill. "This is a witch hunt. I was protecting our community." But Mrs. Carver stood, frail but fierce, and dropped the bombshell. "I found receipts in my old files. Karen bought those chemicals 2 years ago, right before my roses died." The room erupted. Neighbors shouted, demanding her resignation. Karen's face drained of color, her hands shaking as she gripped her clipboard. For the first time, she had no comeback. The fallout was swift and brutal. The HOA board, pressured by the community's outrage, voted unanimously to remove Karen as president. But that wasn't enough. I filed a police report, and the lab results sealed her fate. The chemicals she'd used were so toxic they'd contaminated the soil beyond my property, threatening the neighborhood's water table. The city charged her with environmental violations, slapping her with a $200,000 fine, a number that made her gasp in court. The judge, a gardener himself, added a poetic twist. Karen was ordered to replant my entire garden, under my supervision, using the exact heirloom seeds she destroyed. She'd also have to attend community service, cleaning up polluted sites across town. Watching Karen kneel in the dirt, planting my grandmother's roses while neighbors looked on, was surreal. Her hands shook as she dug, her face a mask of humiliation. I didn't gloat, I couldn't. The victory felt hollow against the backdrop of my ruined garden. But as the first new shoots broke through the soil weeks later, I felt a spark of hope. The neighborhood rallied, bringing seedlings, tools, and stories of Karen's past sins. We rebuilt together, turning the scarred earth into something alive again. Karen, meanwhile, became a pariah. Her house went up for sale, but no one would buy it. Whispers followed her everywhere, a living reminder of her own destruction. In the end, justice wasn't just the fine or the replanting. It was the community reclaiming its voice, standing up to a tyrant who'd ruled through fear. My garden's scars will fade, but Karen's legacy, that's a stain she'll never wash out. What do you think? Did she deserve her punishment? Or should the consequences have been different? Share your thoughts below.